Alright, time to start tightening our belts. Guess first things first, time to install the app. Alright, install the Gates Carbon Drive app to a smartphone. If your smartphone needed the belt and the app running, pluck the belt like a guitar string. Alright. It looks as though our set screw is not in. Somehow it either fell out or I missed it on this one. Okay, we're looking for an M3 8mm long. Seems like whatever Allen wrench I need is the one that doesn't want to show up until I don't need it any longer. Ah, right. Put a little of this temporary readjustable light Loctite on there. plastic stuck down in here. When the heated insert was put in. I knew that didn't look right. I believe this is supposed to be 4. There we go. Alright, looks like we achieved our 50 hertz. Alright, that I suppose looks like our tension. Seems a bit low to me. Somehow I gained a little bit of belt tension when I tighten these down. So I guess I'll have to go just a little under and then tighten it down again. Alright, that seems good. Oh, almost about the same. With the belt's intention, it certainly is a lot harder to move. Guess this ended up being more core XY than Z, but the axis is starting now. Oh. The board hasn't been this clear in a while. All right. Hey, how's it going? Good. Yeah, just tightened down the Core, oops, on the Core XY. Oh, not too bad. I kind of had to play the whole game where you tighten it down and go to tighten down the headset, or the headset. Go to tighten down the stepper motor, and then it changes the frequency of the belt a little bit.
Using the app?
I did.
Oh, nice. How did it work? Because mine only works in a really quiet room.
It was all right. Like I had my printer going, of course, so there was a little bit of a issue with that. I paused the printer, the fans were still going, and I unplugged my uh, air pump on my little aquarium I have in here. But I think
Okay. Let's do it.
I tried to make sure that I was at least aimed correctly to try to prevent as much ambient noise as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even think about it when I was starting the print. I should have started it after I had done the step, because I remember seeing the app as a thing to download.
Yeah.
Since I have you, I think I'm going to bring the frame back over here for a second. Before I
Okay. I'm
continue.
watching.
Yeah. It's actually starting to get a little bit of weight to it. I set it on the bottom frame, so it's. Let me switch views here. Alright. There we go. So try to get it in the frame. Since I set it on the low, I shouldn't have set it on the lower frame, but anyway. So when I was talking about the build order, one of the big issues I had ran into partway through, or well, basically after aligning everything and tightening it, was that I had skewed the crossbar again a little bit,
Okay.
and so when I went to push the crossbar back against the backstop, where the limit switch is, I was
Yeah.
actually skewed enough that I wasn't hitting the limit switch.
Oh, interesting. So you're skewed in the other direction.
Yeah, it was. Um, so what I came up with, I loosened everything back up. Oh, and I did swap out to the T-nuts, by the way. Um,
Oh, sweet, sweet.
yeah, I definitely like that better. So
Same.
here's the kind of the method I think I've come up with.
Okay.
You put the motor plates on, obviously, but
Okay.
and I'm sure this is already the first step, but I think it should be emphasized that the rails are going to be pressed up against them, and so that you want them to try to be flush for, like, if you have any extra filament from the brim or something like that, make sure it's off where the rails are going to hit. I can't remember how explicitly that was said or not. Maybe that doesn't need to be said, but
Well, that makes sense.
yeah, I was just thinking if it wasn't, then maybe call that out. And then what I did was I actually took and I tightened up one of the one of the Y rails first. But when I was doing it, I took my calipers and measured and tried to make sure that it was perpendicular, or I mean parallel with the extrusion.
Mm-hmm.
Slid it all the way back, and then
You're measuring it at both ends, like the distance from the extrusion
Yeah,
to
so
the center. So you're trying to center it.
yeah, basically. Oh, and that's a good point. So one of the steps should be make sure that the Y rails can slide all the way back and are the same length, and all that good stuff. So that'll be important as we move to the next step here.
Yeah.
So I tightened down the Y rail, made sure it was nice and parallel, and then I pushed the other Y rail back all the way till make sure they're both pressed up against the backstop. And then I moved the Y rail or the carriage all the way up until the bearings were flush with the ends of the Y rail. And then basically what I was doing there was squaring the bearing blocks up and the carbon fiber crossbar to the bearing blocks. So push those flush, and then I tightened down the bearing blocks, leaving the X rail loose because I loosened it back up. And then I manually moved it forward and backwards. Made sure everything looked nice and parallel on the back and the front. Then as a last step, is when I brought in the 1, 2, 3 blocks and clamped them all up and made sure that the X rail was perpendicular to the bearing blocks. I don't know if that's the perfect way to do it, but I think that will eliminate potential issues like the crossbar being misaligned as you get towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
Any
When you
thoughts?
said, you mentioned pushing the carriages all the way against I just realized that I'm watching this video back in time, so if you're pointing to it, I'll have to watch it again.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so you push it
No,
all
it's
the way
okay.
back, and then once
So
it's
the
all the
carriages
way,
are touching the motor plates, or they're touching the...
yeah, they go all the way back to the motor plates where the limit switch is, right?
Oh, here we go. So you're pushing... Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and
That
so
makes sense.
so it's very important to be able to hear that limit switch is actually clicking and
Clicking.
depressing.
Yeah, on 2.1, I pushed it... So not 2.1, not the one that you have if you printed it, but the one that is going to eventually be 2.1.
Mm-hmm.
I pushed it forward like 0.2 millimeters, just to be sure, because that limit switch has a ton of travel past its clicking limit.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will help.
I was actually pretty terrible on my crossbar. I didn't do a very good job when I was the first time I did it. Even we talked about it the other night, and then when I took it all apart and put in the T-nuts and put it all back together again, I somehow completely was oblivious to the fact that I was putting it in crooked again.
Oh no! Yeah. So what ended up being the crooked? What ended up being responsible for making it crooked?
Well, I think maybe I'm not 100% sure, but when I brought the bar all the way to the front, I was flush over on the limit switch side, but on the non-limit switch rail, I was actually back a couple millimeters with the carbon fiber.
Okay.
So just somehow along the process, when I was squaring everything up, and I didn't pay attention to the carbon fiber being squared, I was paying attention to the rails, and it just kind of, slipped in there like that. Because if you're not paying attention to how square the carbon fiber is, and you're just looking at the rails, you could end up in the same situation I got into, basically.
Okay.
Which means
I can add some more notes.
Yeah. But yeah, I think if you measure the rails before you install them, make sure they're as same length, and as long as they're supposed to be, make sure where they're seating up against the motor plates that it's, you know, nice and parallel, and you know, all the way back to the to that extrusion. Then you can just kind of visually square the carbon fiber up to the edge or the front edge of the rails, Y rails, and then you can tighten down like the rest of it with the 1, 2, 3 blocks. And I think that's the basic summary there.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, I can make some notes. It's actually funny because the one I have in the version 1 in lab is nice and square like you're describing. Version 2 is not. And it's not square, but so the crossbar is not square, but the rail relative to the other rail is square. So I was like, you know what, forget it.
Right.
So as long as the rails are square against each other, you're fine.
Well,
then you have to keep in mind that when you're tensioning them, if they're not equal tension, it will take it out of square.
Yeah, that, and it does matter that at least you can make the limit switch too. So that was my problem, is I couldn't make the limit switch. So.
Yeah, so you had to just pull it apart again. Okay, that makes sense.
So I am like within about a hertz, as far as I can tell, of the two belt tensions, but trying to get them to be the exact same.
I think that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that should be fine. If you're like off by more than 5, I think it ends up being a little bit weird. I had some weird like resonant frequency when they were way out of tension against each other. Okay,
yeah, I'm way closer than 5. I tried to make them exactly 50. I wasn't sure how important that number was or not. But.
It's do your best.
Yeah.
But within 1 is perfect.
Yeah, I think I'm in that ballpark within 1. Cool. 2 at the very outside, you know, because it's kind of weird, you know, as you tighten them down the motors, that they kind of want to change frequencies a little bit. But I think through a little bit of repetition, I think I got that taken care of. So.
Cool.
The one other thing I noticed, that after I got done tensioning, it does seem a fair bit harder to move than before I tightened them down. Like the belts, I had the belts in there and moving it around before I put like a lot of tension on them.
Oh yeah.
Is that normal? I've never done a Core XY before, so.
Oh, so you're saying that it feels harder to push around with the motors engaged and the belts tensioned? Yeah,
so I had the motors engaged before. I just didn't, like, it was before I put any real tension on the belts. Like, I just kind of clamped them in there. So.
Yeah, that's normal.
Okay.
I actually don't know the answer to this question, but you might find that if you had less cheap pulleys with nicer bearings, that you wouldn't have as much of an effect. But I've never actually bought the super expensive ones. Good enough. I mean, print quality wise, at least for monochrome, I have like spectacular quality, and adding nicer pulleys doesn't really help me there. But it might limit could be your maximum speed or your acceleration because of the added friction.
Gotcha. It looks like it was supposed to be It was supposed to be single start, wasn't it? The Z rods.
I think so. Oh wait, no, I think it's 2.
2 start. He sent me 2 sets of rods, but I swear it looks like these Darlin nuts are 4 start. Let me see the other set of rods, because they didn't have them, so I ordered them with brass because of how long the lead time was. And then they sent me the Darlin set, like without even I don't know. They just kind of, it was kind of interesting. I'm like, yeah, let me know when the Darlin nuts come in, and then I'll just order it.
Hmm. Yeah, if they didn't compare it, it could be that they might have messed up.
Well, they sent me complete sets of rods here. Um, and the rods, let's see. Yeah, they look like they mesh with each other. So I believe the two sets of rods are identical. But I think they
Mhm.
sent the wrong nuts.
That's possible. Well, I will say that the anti-backlash lead screw, or the sorry, not the anti-backlash, the anti-backlash nuts that go on the lead screw. I couldn't tell you how necessary they are because gravity of the weight of the plate is already is pushing down pretty hard on the all three nuts already because it's not a super light plate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it might be that it doesn't matter. The other thing too is that the z-axis doesn't. I mean, it's not supposed to move while the xy is moving, and that's the thing that's going to affect your print quality. Is if the z-axis is vibrating in any way relative to the xy, then that will throw off your print quality. Um, but because it's exactly constrained, there's no way for it to wiggle. Um, so it could be that you'll end up being fine with just the brass ones that don't have any anti-backlash on them.
I don't think these are completely the wrong nuts because they're not even the same bolt pattern.
Oh no.
Let me see if the brass ones are at least match the bolt pattern. Oh yeah, those Sterling nuts are completely wrong. I mean, they sent them to me for free, so I'm not sure exactly if I can complain or not, but
Have you printed tool plates by chance?
um, I am actually printing a set right now. Well, I'm not the tool plates. You mean? I think the Bondtech was the one that you had on there. Is that what you meant by tool plates?
Right.
Um, I was gonna print Brian's, but I haven't got around to it yet. The one for the Hemera.
Oh, okay. Cool, cool, cool. Um, I was wondering, you know what? I don't know if that will have. Okay, so my recommendation, the Hemera, I don't actually know what's going on, whether or not I have to look at that design. But at least for the ones that I have, I think that so I've had like a repeatability problem, which I think I have just tracked down today to the plate.
Gotcha.
Where at first it was a heating problem, and I was like, oh, what's so hot? Uh, so something is hot, and I was like, you know what, it must be the bed or the hot end. I'm really surprised because everything else is fine. Anyways, I'll change to PET G. So I changed to a PET G plate, still getting warping, and I was like, wow, this is something is hot here. Then I realized it was the extruder, the motor. The extruder motor was the thing that was bolted onto the plate and really, really hot. So I put a fan, not a fan, cooling, a heat sink behind that, and that stopped it from warping. And I was like, great. However, PETG is still not uh, as stiff as PLA. So what ends up happening is that the first like 30 to 50 tool changes in the very beginning are like are very not repeatable, and then after that they become very repeatable, and that's because you're like fatiguing the PETG plate into place, and this is per print because after you stop, it like relaxes into its original position again. Um,
So what you're
and
saying
that
is we
happens.
probably should not use PETG for the tool plates.
So I think if this, I have a solid HTPLA plate in my hand. I'm going to install it, and I think that will just work. Uh, yeah, because I think the null has the same issue, but I haven't actually written an GitHub issue for it yet because I'm not sure if it's design related or me related. Um, but my hypothesis is that it's the fact that the PETG plate is squishier. Um, and my test, which was doing like 90 tool changes and taking a picture with the microscope nozzle, seems to confirm that it's really squishy in the beginning and then it like settles into place.
So what
Let me
if
know.
you printed? Did you print everything with PETG, or did you only print certain things with PETG?
Everything started off as being PLA. I think everything is interchangeable with. Oh, okay. The only thing at this point that I would recommend must be PETG or should be PETG are the XY motors.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could put heat sinks on the bottom of the motors, and that will also offset the problem.
Oh,
Apart
by
from
the way,
that,
what heat sinks did you purchase for those?
I put them. I had them in the upgrades page, and I
Okay.
now have them. They're the same ones in the extruder page. So for the
Okay.
extruders, what I recommend, I guess the Hemera already has a cooling, is being actively cooled. But just make sure that you cool, that your motor isn't getting super hot and connecting to some mating surface that is going to get squishy and change its shape, as that has been horrible. And I was really confused because my first prints back in the summer were fantastic, but they were from PLA plates, and so now it starts to make more sense.
Yeah, PETG just overall has less stiffness than PLA.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't know if you heard that, what I mentioned earlier
Yeah,
about the it fatiguing into like a settling position, and then it
yeah.
stops misbehaving for a while. Anyways, that's been driving me nuts. I will, once I figure out an answer. At this point, I've confirmed that it's pretty much design related, or I guess manufacturing related. Uh,
So I'm curious if either glass fiber or carbon fiber would help,
it
in that
probably
it
would.
helps with stiffness.
Yes, I'm sure it absolutely would.
Does the carbon fiber PLA actually do anything? I mean, I have some, but I've always been skeptical that it's actually affecting much of anything.
So what it's good for is, what it's not for is strength. Basically, adding anything to your plastic is going to decrease its strength. What it's good for, though, is warp control.
Wait. I'm pretty sure I've seen some graphs that show that the stiffness goes way up on a carbon fiber PLA.
The stiffness goes up, but shear factor and strength and all that go down.
Okay.
So it helps on stiffness, and it helps because essentially by cross-linking, little bits of you've basically got a material that isn't going to shrink when the plastic starts trying to shrink, right?
Sure.
But what it's not good at is layer adhesion, etc.
Yeah, I've been told that so I haven't actually printed with much performance filament. Frequently hot. The layer adhesion ends up being pretty good.
Yeah.
But you just gotta, for the carbon fiber stuff, I think you need to go up to 250, 260.
Yeah. What I typically print at right now on my printers around 245 to 250, depending on the PETG, and I get really good results. But I will say you start running into problems with shrinkage. You end up with problems with, if you're not, for instance, I run my heated bed at 80. Just because otherwise, if depending on the size of the print, you'll start to get curl and it just wants to peel up.
Yikes. Yeah. Does it peel your magnetic bed up too?
No. It literally on mine, it'll just pick a corner up, and usually what happens is the nozzle starts knocking into it.
Oh no.
So I've literally had it. What's funny is it sticks real well to my bed, but that one corner that peels up, I've literally had it knock the hot end loose, where the block I have to disassemble everything and put the block and the everything back together.
I must say that is a bit of a perk with the magnetic beds, because if you start knocking it around, at least the thing will shift.
Yeah.
So it's having some give in the system somewhere.
Mine's magnetic, but it ain't going nowhere.
I see. Yeah, mine's not a super strong magnetic bed. but it is good enough.
So, so what I guess I'm understanding from the conversation is that the tool plates should probably be printed in carbon fiber.
I haven't actually tried that yet.
Or
I think
Yeah.
I was gonna say I think solid PLA will be probably fine as long as you heat sink the motor, because the biggest source of heat by far is the extruder motor. Unless you're printing past ADC, then it might be the bad.
Yeah. HTPLA is also your friend.
Yeah, so I've got a HTPLA plate with me. I'm going to test that today. Run it through like 90 changes with the microscope and see how we do. Yeah, because my hope was that when people started putting together Jubilee, it should have been a matter of like line things up once and then go. But that has not been the case, including for me. At least like deploying one takes a lot of work. But I think it has to do with the stiffness. Where is my... Oh, by the way, I'm gonna get the new rev of the aluminum crossbar to, I think it's this weekend. It's shipped yesterday. It's like today, I think. So either this weekend or Monday, and I think that's gonna be the one. And I am really excited. He did a crazy good job on it. So, and it's going to be the same price as the carbon fiber one plus 4 inserts.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
So yeah, I think it's a big win for everybody, and I'll probably buy 2 off of him as a big thank you, and then install them on the lab ones. But if you have the carbon fiber one and you're happy with it, that should be fine. I've had the carbon fiber one and it was fine for months, so it's totally fine.
What is the advantage to doing the aluminum again?
It's fewer failure points is one advantage. So what I mean by failure points is that those white little nuts that you installed at some point?
Yeah.
So those can like shift around a little bit, but the shoulder screws can come loose. And even if you tighten the whole thing down fairly tight, what ends up happening is that even if you tighten it fairly tight, the nut itself actually has a piece that can rotate inside of itself.
Yeah.
Which is really annoying. But it's like not a big deal because it's on a rotating thing. So as long as this just doesn't tilt axially, it's fine. But it's really confusing for people who are putting it together.
I had one completely fall apart on me, but I was able to use the arbor press to kind of press it back together again.
Cool. Yeah, they're not great. So long term, because the assembly on those is kind of confusing, and because the crossbar is just tapped, I think I will kind of encourage people to do the aluminum one. I mean, it's like 20 grams more, but that's not a loss. Yeah.
Oh, what? And then Eric, on the panels, I go Monday, and he should be able to cut them. He's going to send me measurements as well, but I talked to him this morning. I basically sent a little test piece to him, and when he cut it, it was... I had it set for 4 millimeters across, and I think he said he measured it like 4.05.
Oh, that sounds like something the competition is up.
Yeah.
What'd you say? Sorry, I missed the last little bit there for some reason.
So I had him cut a test pattern, and when he cut it, it was basically a like 10 millimeter square with a series of 4 and 6 millimeter holes and squares cut out on the interior. And when he measured those interior diameters, instead of being 4 millimeters, it was 4.05 millimeters. Which I'm going to check when I'm there Monday. But that
What's .05 in imperial? Sorry.
right.
0.05 millimeters. That's, I mean, you're talking screw holes. That's not really all that important, is it?
Yeah, that's why I was like, I think we're just gonna go with it.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
I'm gonna.
not bad.
I have
for
the
a
day
laser
off
cut.
Monday,
Oh yeah.
so I'm basically gonna go into a shop and take my calipers with me and be like, let's do this.
Cool. Well, it's awesome that you're actually that close and you're able to do that.
Yeah, I actually was at our makerspace tonight for Valentine's.
Nice. Do they have like an event?
Yeah, they had like this really fun. For me, it was fun, but you went and you made a bunch of stuff. Like we welded like a serving trivet and did some screen printing and did some pewter casting, and
Nice.
had dinner. So
That's awesome. The makerspace that I work off of in school is sadly closing. There's a bunch of drama involved. Alas. But we actually have, the school is big enough that we have a couple other makerspaces. But this one had a lot of character and the other two did not, which is unfortunate.
the one that we have here is one of the largest in the country.
Wait, where are you based out of?
We're in Columbus.
Boston? Oh, okay.
This is Columbus.
Dallas has a big one, Boston has a big one, and yeah, I didn't realize there was a big one over there too.
Yeah, search for Columbus Idea Foundry sometime.
Okay. Okay, that name is very familiar.
It's kind of ridiculous in its size.
Okay. This solid HTTP plate is amazing. I am going to do something.
Cool.
I am super excited because if this fixes it once and for all for everybody, I don't know. At least at Denal, I might have to go like mail him some for like debugging for so long.
So, what level of infill did you print it at? Was it solid?
I printed it solid.
Okay.
I was like, you know what? There's no penalty to printing it solid, except that it's going to take 2 hours instead of 1 hour. I think everything just cut out.
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. I can hear things now.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't talking. I was just listening. I was, I think I'm going to try to order. Well, I put the brass one on there, and was squeaky. And
brass squeaky. I mean, you can fix that with lubricant.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but I was just going to see how quickly I could get the Darylin ones.
That's fair.
I actually ordered mine through Amazon.
The palm nuts?
Delrin palm nuts, yeah.
I think palm is like the European name for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Delrin is a brand, technically.
Right. It's acetyl homopolymer.
Yep.
I love that stuff. I wrote articles about it on Hackaday back in the day. But it's like the ideal thing to laser cut for like functional prototypes. Like there's really no comparison to anything else except for maybe wood. But wood is kind of messy and burns and stuff, and this is not messy. Okay, I'm gonna put this together and let you all know how it goes. It's gonna be like 30 minutes of work.
Alrighty. Oh, I saw probably the largest acrylic object I've ever seen this afternoon, and that was somebody made a like snowmobile out of acrylic.
Oh my goodness. And that's a good idea because...
Yeah, I have no clue. It looked fabulous, but I mean like inch-thick acrylic.
Holy smokes. Yeah, acrylic is quite strong when you're not working with thin sheets. Well, okay, strong, it's yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah. And I mean like when I say they made it out of like the steering column is acrylic.
Oh snap. Well, okay, there's also the like impact resistant acrylic. There's a couple flavors of acrylic that end up being quite nice.
I saw it and I was like, that was just a crazy. That's a crazy build in my head. Like to sit there and be like, I'm gonna make a thing, that I'm gonna ride out of acrylic.
Oh, it's like the Wonder Woman airplane, where it's like see-through.
Yeah.
So was it operable?
I don't know. It wasn't the guy who owned it wasn't there, but he also had a tank that he made, and the tank was 100% wood.
Whoa.
Like the tracks were all wood, everything.
Wow, that's crazy. Hmm.
All right. Yeah, they sent me the 8x8, so the 8x2 I think is what it was.
Oh.
No, it's too bad. Yeah. Oh, heads up! I started a conversation with Jason at LDO again, and
Yeah.
it sounds like he's gonna be able, like, at some point, it will be possible to buy this like new set of prototype motors that they're, I think, refining right now. It's 0.9, 2 amps of current. It's like
Fantastic.
85 plus ounce inch torque. I think it's actually more than that. But I'm very excited because that's kind of the. It would be nice to go just a hair faster.
Yeah. 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 I was tempted at one point to go with like NEMA 24s or 23s or
23.
something, but
Oh,
then
you
I was
couldn't
like,
making that plate?
no. I ended up just being like, you know what? I'm already biting off enough, and I've
Yeah.
got enough crazy ideas. I will let somebody else pioneer that part of it.
Well, I did see somebody do something on CAD and instant pictures of it. Um, yeah, well, we will see. It would be nice to see. I would love to see people do modifications to the hardware, um, to the machine. Um, I'm also really looking forward to seeing more people do more tools. So I think that's like a really fun place to be, where you have like a dev platform.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Like I said,
and
my kind of my goal, and so my order of doing it is to basically have like a flex drive tool first,
yeah.
and then just get that working and prove that it works well and has an advantage,
Mm-hmm.
reduce
Mm-hmm.
mass, and then try to move forward from there.
Yep.
And if it's like if I try it and it proves that I'm wrong, I'm like, well, okay, I've still got a bunch of E3D V6s and motors and BMGs, and that'll be that route, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. For sure. What was I gonna say? Remember? Yeah, actually, one thing that I would love to do is actually consolidate the BMG enclosure into a single part, or like a set of printed parts,
yeah,
because you can buy the gears, you can buy pretty much all the rudimentary components of the BMG, and then you can make a nice, compact, all printed thing
yeah,
that is a little bit nicer for people. It's like $30 cheaper or whatever,
yeah.
unless it's made out of HTPLA, in which case all bets are off.
I don't know. I guess I can just try the nuts the way they are. I think it'll take a while to get the barrel-in versions.
Yeah, it's too bad. Um, yeah.
I mean, where were the reasons behind choosing the Darylin?
Oh, what were mine? Oh, because they were integrated. They came in with like a bundle. Brass I'm sure will work. It might be noisier. It might not be. I could not tell you because I've not used brass. The other thing too is that I don't think you need the compression, the spring. I've mentioned this already because it's already under constant load. It's exactly constrained, so there's no way for it to wiggle, and the Z axis doesn't move when you're printing. Only XY moves. It's not a bed swinger, which is so. I have a suspicion that the spring is actually overkill.
Yeah, in the situation that we're in, I'm fairly sure that it's going to be overkill. I actually, on my current printer, moved to one with an anti-backlash nut, and in some ways, I wish I had not.
Oh no, was it like harder to move around?
It it wears more.
The anti-backlash nut.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've just noticed over time that the screw the screw itself, the grease turns black a lot quicker.
Oh yeah, I have black grease.
Yeah. So, and I've looked at it and I'm like, if I run real quick movements, it will just kind of either like screech, or sometimes what it'll do is it'll feel like it's not starting, and then all of a sudden the bed will move real fast, and then it'll just kind of slow to a stop.
Oh, when it's like decelerating and accelerating,
Yeah.
it whines. Mine does that too.
So like if I move it real fast, which is I'm never doing while printing, right?
Right, it's only
But
when you're done or something.
Yeah. So I basically try to avoid like really long travels on my Z going fast.
Which is like the thing you might want to do when you're done printing.
Right. So I'm like,
Hey, that seems honestly, that's kind of a tempting case for me to actually play around with brass nuts instead. Yeah, so hey, if Eric, if those brass nuts end up working out really nicely for you, let me know, and maybe we'll save everybody a couple bucks.
What I'm also kind of interested in is IGUS has, a lot of people have used the IGUS filament to try to print stuff, and that stuff is not so great, right?
The filament or the
filament
the printing of it.
Kind of the printing of it and the end result. A lot of people have like print their own gears with it and that stuff. Well, what IGUS actually has is an SLS specific material that is used for printing gears.
Oh, hey.
And they basically advertise that it lasts longer than Palm.
Wow. I am very impressed because Palm is like the go-to.
Yeah.
For gears.
And then one of the things I'm probably going to play around with on mine is, and I told you about it earlier. There's a product called Cerakote that's really popular in gunsmithing.
Okay. Just as a heads up, I got your message and I was like in transit somewhere and I wasn't able to reply to it.
Sure.
But as a heads up, I actually did buy at some point, like you might have heard like Denal and mentioned Denal, we go back and forth about golden tool balls.
Yeah.
I had a set of the stainless steel balls coated in titanium nitride because I thought they were wearing out, but it turns out I was wrong. I just didn't know it at the time. So I had them coated in titanium nitride because that stuff is extremely hard.
Right.
And the hope was that if they were wearing out, well, they're definitely not going to wear out. But the result was that what wore out was the pins. Which of course, I kind of knew that, but the reason they wore out wasn't necessarily because they were hard, was because the titanium nitride also, yes, it was harder, but it also wasn't polished.
Right.
So it was basically an abrasive surface.
So this is why I want Cerakote. Cerakote has a lower friction coefficient than Teflon.
Okay, there we go. Because I was going to say, that's just something as a heads up, just for coding, but it seems like you are one step ahead.
Yeah, to give you an idea of what this typically is used on firearms, is everything but the slide will get Cerakoted.
What's
And
it?
you know, if it's taking the friction of the slide and all that stuff passing back and forth, under a firing situation, yeah, it'll handle it. Like
Yeah.
What's it cost to get?
Yeah, what's the price per tool ball if you do like a run of
I
200 or
I
something?
I don't know. It shouldn't be that bad. I mean, the shop that I was talking to, they do parts for for firearms, and they're like 20 or $30 for like the upper on an AR. You know, they'll do like an entire AR for like $150. But the thing that will be a challenge is it does increase, and it is basically a sprayed on coating, right?
Sure.
So the basically what I would probably have them do is put them on a screw, right, so that they can hang it
Yeah.
and spray it evenly, and then they would basically, after that, you bake it. So I'm gonna have them do that with both a set of the balls and the rods,
Rods. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
so
that
that
would be
they're
fun. Yeah, so let
so
me
that
know
they're
how that
both
goes.
really hard and then smooth
Super
and
slippy.
like slippery.
Yeah, that would be super fun to just kind of set and forget, or like as an upgrade.
Right.
Yeah, keep me posted because I would definitely go in on like a set of those, or like a few dozen, etc. And I
Yeah.
bet you Luke's laboratory and Hesseland in Denmark would also be interested because he sells a couple pieces to,
Okay.
or he's planning to sell a couple pieces to other people. So if it ends up being like a really nice upgrade, we should totally,
Yeah.
yeah, spread the
I'm
word
probably
and evaluate it to other people.
yeah. I'll talk to the shop. I was planning on talking to them later this week.
Yeah, I also have a run of like I have a couple hundred balls because I ordered like 1,800 from China back like a year ago when I was just starting this.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so I have a ton left. If you need some, I mean, if anybody needs some, I just haven't put them on the Tindy shop because I'm busy, and I was like, well, I'll
Yeah.
help people with Swiss locks, but everything else I'm kind of like, I can do it, but it's not really the main thing I want to be doing.
I got a few extra of the little the smaller ones,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I bought them from some creepy doll shop.
Oh yeah, yeah, like and like they're armatures. They're really
Yeah.
common for armatures in stop motion, which yeah. And, yeah, so I was like, oh, that's not super sustainable, but because I saw that too, but I
Oh
just was
wow, it
getting
got
pulled
late.
into time.
And then in the morning, I'm getting up, and hopefully after doing some errand running that I have to do, I'm going to go pick up about a 2 foot by 2 foot slab of granite.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited for you.
Everybody,
After
I
hearing
feel
about
like
Brian,
I started talking about it to Brian. Brian goes to some local
does
shop
it?
and manages to get it. Meanwhile, the deal that I was working on falls through, and now you're
Yeah.
getting granite.
Well, so for some reason there's like 6 granite suppliers within like 3 miles of one another in our town. I have no clue why.
Wow, I need a road trip.
And then there's like a small cadre of fabrication shops, right? So I called one of the wholesalers to talk to them, and they're like, first of all, don't even bother talking to us. They're like, we don't do stuff at that small of a scale. Call the fabrication shops. So I called a random fabrication shop, and literally the first thing is they're like, oh yeah, we have a remnants and scraps pile, and one of our sales guys will take you back there and help you figure it out and have it cut.
Whoa, that's so cool.
I need to do. Excuse me. I need to do something like that. There's a few granite places around here. I just, with my work schedule, I haven't been able to pursue that idea.
Yeah, I realized that I had Monday off and I got all excited and came up with a bunch of things that I need to do. So
Yes.
I'm like 3D printer time.
No, I
Yep.
didn't accomplish that much today, but I think I'll have to. Yeah, just basically tensioning the belts and putting the brass nuts on. But oh well, I guess I'll end the stream there. I gotta get to bed. I still have to work tomorrow.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah,
Well,
pretty much.
good chatting.
Every day is Wednesday is kind of the joke that my friend and I have at work. Because when you don't have a day off, weekends don't matter.
No. Oh no.